Envy and Gratitude, Melanie Klein, audiobook, Part 7. While the exclusive relation to the mother varies individually in duration and intensity, I believe that up to a point it exists in most people. How far it remains undisturbed depends partly on external circumstances. But the internal factors underlying it, above all the capacity for love, appear to be innate. Destructive impulses, especially strong envy, may at an early stage disturb this particular bond with the mother. If envy of the feeding breast is strong, the full gratification is interfered with, because, as I have already described, it is characteristic of envy that it implies robbing the object of what it possesses and spoiling it. The infant can only experience complete enjoyment if the capacity for love is sufficiently developed. And it is enjoyment that forms the basis for gratitude. Freud described the infant's bliss in being suckled as the prototype for sexual gratification. In my view, these experiences constitute not only the basis of sexual gratification, but of all later happiness, and make possible the feeling of unity with another person. Such unity means being fully understood, which is essential for every happy love relation or friendship. At best, such an understanding needs no words to express it, which demonstrates its derivation from the earliest closeness with the mother in the pre-verbal stage. The capacity to enjoy fully the first relation to the breast forms the foundation for experiencing pleasure from various sources. If the undisturbed enjoyment in being fed is frequently experienced, the introjection of the good breast comes about with relative security. A full gratification at the breast means that the infant feels he has received from his loved object a unique gift which he wants to keep. This is the basis of gratitude. Gratitude is closely linked with the trust in good figures. This includes, first of all, the ability to accept and assimilate the loved primal object, not only as a source of food, without greed and envy interfering too much, for greedy internalization disturbs the relation to the object. The individual feels that he is controlling and exhausting and therefore injuring it, whereas in a good relation to the internal and external object, the wish to preserve and spare it dominates. I have described in another connection the process underlying the belief in the good breast as derived from the infant's capacity to invest the first external object with libido. In this way, a good object is established, which loves and protects the self and is loved and protected by the self. This is the basis for trust in one's own goodness. The more often gratification at the breast is experienced and fully accepted, the more often enjoyment and gratitude, and accordingly the wish to return pleasure, are felt. This recurrent experience makes possible gratitude on the deepest level and plays an important role in the capacity to make reparation and in all sublimations. Through processes of projection and introjection, through inner wealth given out and reintrojected, an enrichment and deepening of the ego comes about. In this way, the possession of the helpful inner object is again and again reestablished, and gratitude can fully come to play. Gratitude is closely bound up with generosity. Inner wealth derives from having assimilated the good object so that the individual becomes able to share its gifts with others. This makes it possible to introject a more friendly outer world, and a feeling of enrichment ensues. Even the fact that generosity is often insufficiently appreciated does not necessarily undermine the ability to give. By contrast, with people in whom this feeling of inner wealth and strength is not sufficiently established, bouts of generosity are often followed by an exaggerated need for appreciation and gratitude, and consequently by persecutory anxieties of having been impoverished and robbed. Strong envy of the feeding breast interferes with the capacity for complete enjoyment, and thus undermines the development of gratitude. There are very pertinent psychological reasons why envy ranks among the 7 deadly sins. I would even suggest that it is unconsciously felt to be the greatest sin of all, because it spoils and harms the good object, which is the source of life. This view is consistent with the view described by Chaucer in the Parson's Tale. It is certain that envy is the worst sin that is, for all other sins are sins only against one virtue, whereas envy is against all virtue and against all goodness. The feeling of having injured and destroyed the primal object impairs the individual's trust in the sincerity of his later relations and makes him doubt his capacity for love and goodness.